What is up and welcome. Oh, let's bring that down. Still registering really high. Gonna leave it there. Gonna bring it there. Hopefully the music is good where it's at now. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie live stream. Happy holidays to everyone. As you can see, I got the festive colors going on around me, and I wish everyone a happy holiday. And welcome to the Camera Junkie live stream. My name's Luis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you and everyone to upgrade your skills before your gear. And if it's your first time here, then welcome. Please be sure to introduce yourself into the chat so you can get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And our tradition around here, as always, is to go ahead and check out to see who are the first members of the crew to be in chat. And thank you all for hanging out with me as I was taking care of some Aiden duties right at the perfect time of 10 p.m. to go live. So let's go ahead and get to that. Whoa, why is Crisp doing that to me? I just switched scenes and it just opened up a whole new web page in front of me, in front of my eCam and everything, but I digress. All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator, here, letting me know about this and some other things. And you see, and I still forgot something because Aiden just asked me for snacks. This is my cocktail of goldfishes of different varieties and Cheez-Its. He absolutely loves the Cheez-Its more than all the others, but like father, like son. All right. So he's also saying hello to everyone. We also got Parker Jennings in the house saying hello to everyone. Kevin Cox saying hello to all. Eric Prickett in the house. Oh, Eric Pickett. I added an R there for some reason. How are you doing, sir? Welcome, welcome. It's been a while. Haven't seen you. I know Peter Greg didn't have a live stream last night, so welcome you here tonight. We got hand pink waving. All right. And like I always forget, and Kevin always reminds me to remind everyone to hit the like button. Highly appreciate it. He says, just got back from Southern Utah. Filmmaker dinner social. Nice. Says, I love cheese. It's too. Oh, Cheez-Its. I almost didn't even read it right because they misspell it, so the name's engraved, right? But we continue. Guys, today I'm doing a little bit of a kickback to episode that we did a while back when I got my A1 Mini, my printer. Now, ever since I got my printer, it has... like my enthusiasm for 3D printing has infected a couple of other people, you know, within my vicinity. One of them being Kevin, another one being Doc Rock, and the latest victim is Alicia. Alicia from our gold class and AT. She's now has the A1 printer as well. So, because of this, we're all learning, and I seem to just be slightly ahead of the pack right now with this system, even though some of you like Kevin and Doc were printing even before me. But because I've been doing the most printing as of late, I've gotten the experience. So I'm gonna share some things over with you and some things that I've done to kind of help out. And today we're gonna be talking about, or like I mentioned, down the rabbit hole of different types of filaments, right? So someone would be like, what is a filament at all? And that is basically the ink that these 3D printers use to print. So the way a laser jet or a bubble jet printer would print ink onto a piece of paper, what we have with 3D printing in its most like kind of basic form is that we're printing these different filaments, which are the plastics, and those are the inks that we use to print onto a heated metal bed. And once the first layer of print is done, sort of the first layer of ink, the entire system just raises itself just a slight amount of a fraction of a millimeter, right? And then just starts applying another layer of ink onto the ink that was just there already embedded onto the first plate. And through a series of just stacking all of these layers over and over again, you're able to construct just about anything. And if you're like me at all, then you end up looking at this as just another, like tool in your utility belt, and it ends up just like bleeding over to all the different aspects of your life. So, for example, I am into photography, so it's already done so many things for my photography and different accessories. Like I've mentioned before, like having the little screen protectors or LCD guards on my, like camera rigs, right? That was like just the first step into it. Now I'm also learning CAD, right, which is computer assisted design programs, which that can lead to so many different things, because anything that you're able to make in CAD, you're able to kind of, prototype on a 3D printer, but then that leads into a variety of different things, which is also like part creation, right? Like I'm big into cars, so learning CAD for 3D printing is only going to have another, like skill in my utility belt that can easily bleed into car manufacturing and manufacturing parts specifically for my needs, right? And that's where you can take it to the next level, because what I'm learning with 3D printing is that everything is customizable to your specific use case. And everybody likes custom things, right? A custom keychain with your name on it, a custom mug like with your name or something specific to you, right? Everybody loves customization. And when it comes to customization, let me go to the next screen. When it comes to customization with 3D printing, you could basically do whatever your heart desires. So I've revolutionized so many different aspects of my life with the 3D printing, but that's what led me into the or the knowledge, or needing to learn more about the different plastics that these little machines could actually extrude. So one of the things that I actually did recently, I mentioned it into some people in the gold classes, that I've totally revamped my shower experience. Hard to get it out. So I was able to change my shower heads, and I got an example here to show you. So this is the shower head that I actually 3D printed. Now, this one is not good. It's not a working model. And this is some of the things that I learned and my mistakes. A lot of the 3D prints, when you have openings and gaps, there's through the 3D printing slicing program, it will create automatic supports, right? So it will start printing these little like support racks that actually go to kind of support something that's going to be there in the future. So the way that I had explained that these filaments are being printed layer upon layer, if there is something that is an overhang, right, on the part or the design that you're doing, and it's going to be like floating hypothetically, then the 3D printer can't start printing on nothing, right? Because if it just starts printing into air, there's nothing underneath it to support it. So it's just going to fall down, and it's not going to give you the desired result. So for this, the program itself automatically knows that it needs to start building a certain support system to kind of host future things that are going to be overhangs throughout the print. So this shower head, right, I was still learning. I printed it and it came out with supports, but the thing is that you're supposed to remove the supports once you're done with the 3D print, and this printed the supports inside of the 3D print itself, right? Because it's trying to have basically a hollow structure right? And that hollow structure needed supports. So it builds them on the inside, which effectively blocked the passageway for the water to flow in this shower head. That's why this was an unsuccessful attempt. So when it also comes to 3D printing, you're also going to have to be okay with making mistakes and knowing that the amount of filament that you use for a project like this basically goes to waste in a learning experience. So that's when I started doing some research on the different types of filaments. Now, the most basic filament that we use, or that like is used throughout 3D printing, is called PLA. And that's just the abbreviation. Everything's kind of hyphenated that way. I don't know the exact terminology for what it is, but that is the most basic. And the characteristics is that it's like the non-toxic. So it's general purpose use for just about anything that your heart's desire. But there's one backdraw to it, which is the melting temperature is not the highest, right? So it kind of melts easy, which doesn't make it the best plastic for all use case scenarios. And one of them being a shower head, because the shower head, everyone wants to take a hot shower, right? So the shower head PLA will not be the best thing depending on the amount or the temperature of the water that comes out of your system, because prolonged exposure to that temperature might end up bending the shower head that you created and might give you a lackluster experience while using it, which led me into the understanding of different types of filaments and what their use cases are. Right? The strongest one that I have found, and I have yet to use, but depending on the project that I decide to use for it, is PLA-CF. Now, the PLA-CF stands for carbon fiber. So, yeah, the same way that carbon fiber is light and used for, vehicle construction and different things like this, you could actually use a filament that has a stronger bond, so to speak, and a stronger tensile strength. I think that I'm saying that correct, right? So the strength within it is going to be higher, but to achieve this, you now have to run that machine with a different extruder head, right? That's designed to handle the kind of the grit of the carbon fiber, elements within the PLA. But then also you're going to need to get a higher melting temperature, which is the benefit to the PLA-CF, right? If you're going to use it for something that is going to be required for high temperatures, then this is something that you can use it for, because it has those properties in it. And you would have to adjust your 3D printer and your extruder to actually be able to print in that filament. Right? And that's when I fell down the rabbit hole. Now, the one that is mostly kind of advised right off the bat, where you don't need to buy anything extra, just a different type of filament, it's actually called PETG, right? PETG, PETG, and that's what has a higher melting point, right? So that it has a higher heat resistance, and that is what is kind of recommended for this use case scenario. So that's exactly what I did. I ordered a spool from Amazon, and thank God for Amazon, because goodness gracious, they get me all these different types of filaments like the next day, sometimes within the same day, which is shocking. But I order some PETG, right? And then get it into the machine and recognize that now, and all these temperatures are in Celsius. So for every degree that we add, right, in Celsius, it's basically a 1.8 or close to a double of the temperature. So just to keep that in mind. And it went from 220 degrees melting point to 275 degrees Celsius. So that is a substantial amount of extra heat needed to get pet G to that melting point. The reason why is because now it allows it to kind of handle the heat of the water that would be coming through it, thus allowing me to print out a shower head, changing my entire shower experience. Because this little halo design, and the person who designed this shower head, gotta give it up to them, because I had a rainfall shower head and I had it on an extension arm, right, just so that it could like be more centered in the shower instead of it being at an angle. I wanted it to be straight down, and changing this to it made it that much easier, because where it used to hang, I am able to even lift it up like another 10 inches, right? Because where the shower head used to have to sit, now I have this lightweight piece of plastic that was like connected in the same spot. And because it was an extension, I was able to raise it up. So now it sits like this at an angle, right, really high above, like an extra 10 inches, because that was the height of the extension. And now it sits flat and it works like a rainfall shower head. So once again, I gotta give it up to this, because that's why I said, like, everything in my life now has a certain level of customization that I don't think I can go back from, because I have the ability to do or find anything that I need to customize it to my particular use case. And if not, now with my added like learnings of CAD, computer assisted design, I can literally create whatever it is that I'm missing, even if it doesn't exist. And that's why I said it takes that customization to the nth degree. Now let me go ahead and, because I'm gonna continue ranting, but let me just see who else is here. We got, oh, Silver Screen Paradise, Michael's in the house. Says hello all again, Michael here. This is my creator channel. My hello disappeared. Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't see it. Kevin Cuff says, you set me down the rabbit hole again. Yeah, because this is a whole nother thing, and I put it on, full disclaimer, it was on my it was on my thumbnail. That's exactly what I put. He goes, it's been so much fun, and Bamboo is so much easier than convenient than my creator Ender 5. Absolutely. Oh, I don't know if that came up, but I'll put it on there right there. Yes, and that's what I've learned. Like, what I'm hearing is like people are upset at people like me that are now just getting into 3D printing and having so much fun, and just like we're catching up. We're getting from zero to like just almost to the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, or like the Zima, right? Because these systems have made it that much easier. And if you're capable and if you've done any 3D printing, this feels almost like cheating to you, because there's so many things. Now, Kevin, for you, one thing that I don't have is the AMS. Now, the AMS is the multiple, like, the system where it automatically changes different color filaments for you, because that's one of the cool things about these 3D printers, that it allows you to go multicolor, so on and so forth. The way that I'm doing multicolor right now is I actually am learning how to read kind of the layout and set my printer to pause at certain aspects that give me the ability to manually change the filament. So that's what I'm doing to kind of bypass, because obviously in this limited space that I have, I don't have the space for another 4 spools and an entire like system dedicated for it. That will be coming when I have more space and I get my A1 full size, not the mini. But I digress. Right now, what I'm doing to kind of like bypass that is that I am setting a pause. So I'm gonna give you a good example of something that I printed that I just thought it was just too fun to have, which is ornamental, so to speak, but great for my decor in photography, which is an Olympus 35 EC camera. Now, this is a small little range finder camera, as you can see here. And you know what? I'm gonna go to my overhead. Move this, right? And this is what I was able to print out. So I love rangefinder cameras, right? And when I saw this little 3D print available on the Maker World, I was like, okay, I need to have this. So it looks pretty good, right? And it's got a full cutout see-through, so you could basically mock, as you can see me here, right? Like to mess around with it. But I wanted to make it two-tone. And I had, PLA in matte black, but then I had just gotten my hands on a different PLA, which is some like shiny silver, which as you can see is here. So what I did is in the slicer program, once it reached this point right here, which was the same exact line, which, like kind of separates the top and bottom of this camera itself originally, I put a pause on the printer there and switched it from the black or the matte black PLA to the shiny silver, and then let the printer continue to do the rest of it, and it just blended them in perfectly together, giving me a nice little two-tone print. So once I was able to do that, I recognized that I was going to do the same with the lens, because this is actually like a separate print. So to do that, I started it in black, which was the base, right? I gave it a pause, I think it was like 5 millimeters in or something like that. Switched to the silver to match. But then the lens, I didn't want it to be silver, so I paused it again and switched it back to the matte black. That gave me like the little stripe effect. And then when I put it together, I think it came out pretty well. And then I 3D printed just the little clicker button as well in that silver. And to me, I think that came out like really cool as decor for like my studio here. So, camera Junkie, this fit perfectly in place. So that's what I've been learning as far as the filaments. But one of the things that the Bamboo printer does do, Aiden just went through the snack, so I got to get him some more. Give me a second. Let me get something to drink. So that's what allowed me to understand the different filament things. Now, the AMS that Doc and Kevin have, actually, what it does and these printers do is that it has this extrusion process. So whenever it's gonna change from one color to the next, it actually has to like purge all of the previous color. Now, the system and the Bamboo printers are actually really cool on it. If you have everything branded Bamboo, then it's almost hands off, because the entire systems communicate with each other, almost like Apple products, have like their little mesh network. The Bamboo Lab systems kind of work in that same manner, where the spools themselves actually let the system know what color is on there, because all of that information is embedded within the spool itself. And there's a reader on these AMS systems. So as soon as you put in a different color or a different type of filament, the system, the AMS, is going to automatically recognize it and give that information to the printer and know which channel that that filament is going to be in. So you can have a variety of different colors or different types of filaments within your AMS system, and depending on what you're printing, the machine will automatically know to retract, cut, and do everything with the filaments so that it automatically prints the one that you want, depending on how you set it up. And that's where this system, like Kevin was saying, it's almost like super easy. It's almost like unfair for the people who have actually done this and paved the way in 3D printing and gone through all the headaches to have a system like this. So I'm very, very grateful, because I've just been having tons of fun. But the AMS system, for example, let's say you're printing a lot of a certain thing, also works to your favor. So you can kind of fill it up with all of the same filament, right? So that if you're printing a lot of things or something that's very filament heavy or that it requires a lot of material to print, right? Because it's a big project. Well, if it's something like that and you don't want it to run out, the system will automatically recognize that the first spool is done and that the same exact color is on the next spool, and automatically start feeding the second one so that the print continues without, like in sync, without you having to do anything. And then, the next day you're able to just check your AMS machine and kind of make sure that your ink, your filaments are loaded and full. And that's how convenient it can be. But I did fall down the rabbit hole because there's so many different inks, right? Filaments that you can use for this. So we talked about the PLA, right? We talked about the PETG, which is PETG. To give you an example, PETG is more of the type of plastic that you would find commonly in your Coca-Cola bottle, right? So a Coca-Cola or 2-liter soft drink bottle, that type of plastic that's like very stretchy, so to speak, but very resilient, that's PETG. So I then started not only doing my shower head in PETG, but then started seeing the benefits of PETG compared to PLA, where that's a bit of a softer plastic, right, and has like less tensile strength there to actually hold things up. So another thing that I needed help with was finding a way to kind of organize my pots and pans. So my pots and pans, I have these IKEA like metal shelves, right? And they kind of have these hooks, which I found that are perfect for it. So I printed out like a dozen of these hooks, and in the PETG it was very thin, right? But it had the correct shape that I needed to do, right? And I started hanging my pots and pans, and that actually like condensed an entire area of like, what do I do with all this stuff into like a nice and neat. But I then realized that some of my pots and pans were heavier than others, and some of them were stretching out the PETG, right? And holding it down. So now the PETG being more like a Coke bottle, it doesn't snap, so it's not brittle. So it's still holding them up, but you can see that it's stretching them out and they're like on their last limb. So what I did was then took that same exact file, right, within the slicer program and just kind of beefed it up, right? I had this real, I have this like really heavy like cast iron frying pan, and I've had it for years. It's not like the skillet type, but it's not the skillet type, you understand? It doesn't need to be old, but I digress. It's very heavy, right? And when I tried to put one of the hooks on it, right away the hook was like, this ain't happening, you understand? So I put two hooks together side by side, and it was like, okay, I'm okay for now, but I don't want to just think about it, you understand, and have that fall. So then I was like, you know what, let me try to find something. And like I said, I ended up using the same hook and realizing that two of them side by side was working together. So I took the dimensions of the first hook and I just like stretched them out, gave it a little bit more girth, you understand, but left the general shape exactly the same. With that, I printed two of those test hooks, and it came out perfect. So perfect that now I'm going to replace all of the other hooks that are kind of like lenient, you understand, that were a bit flimsy, for these, because these are just so much more beefy, heavy duty, and like they're holding like a champ. So now it's taken my entire like mess of pots and pans and made that something that's not even an eyesore anymore, but organized and convenient, giving me like saving me space the way things were supposed to be done with my space saver IKEA shelves. But now I'm actually putting them to use. And there's so many different things, and it continues because now I'm learning more and more about like ABS, right? ABS plastics are pretty much cream of the crop. Now, I haven't dabbled in ABS plastics yet, and I just learned about them because those are very, and I mean very, very, very temperature sensitive. So not only do they have to be temperature correct while they're being fed into the machine and extruded, but the entire machine itself needs to be enclosed, so to speak, and keeping the entire temperature of the entire 3D print in ABS plastic, right, at the same temperature, because if not, then it will start cooling off and warping. And when the printer expects something to be here and it's here and it misses, it just becomes a whole mess. And that's, that's why I haven't dabbled in ABS, but I have fallen down this rabbit hole of a variety of different filaments. And the last one that I'm going to touch on, because there's still so many more, is one that I've actually got my hands on, which is TPU. Now, TPU is more of a rubbery type of substance or filament. It's what I use for my lid that I have for my soda cans. And I gotta tell you, this lid has been a lifesaver. It saved my bacon the other day. I had a full can of, Monster Energy, put the lid on it and had it here. And I went to grab something else and my elbow clicked it. And I saw my world just go, my heart to my, and boy, did this save it. Like, all I did was just go to the sink, go like this, and like the excess gases that it created just seeped out. None of the juice was lost. And man, I was just so happy that I didn't have to clean all of this from like sugar and, like monster sauce, so to speak. So that alone, but that's a great example. Another thing that I printed in TPU is this, right? This is a armrest for my mouse. So it basically sits here and allows me to move around. The extensions keep it like within my wrist, and it's been very comfortable. When I go to edit, I pull this out and it allows me to, do that very ergonomically. Very, very happy. But this is like the best example of what I can tell you that TPU is very good on, is very rubbery. I wouldn't even be surprised that, well, this is the material that I would say that people use to make Crocs out of, because it does have a little bit of that buoyancy, so to speak. So it has that comfortability and kind of give it like that, like, the foamy, or what were those? The Yeezys, the ones that, those ugly ass shoes that Kanye was selling. All those 3D printed type shoes and things like that, Crocs, everything like that, basically is out of this material. But another thing that I wanted to play around with this material is what I was able to do, and I printed an airless football. Now, this is a really cool project, and I'm just super surprised because this material requires heat to melt it, obviously, but the plate itself needs to be cold so that it can stick. And I could honestly tell you, like, just so that you could understand, this has this flat little spot right here, and the entire football was held for the entire print just on the adhesion of that little spot. There was supports that were built around it, but the supports never actually touched the football. They were there just in case, right? But it did nothing, and I was just amazed that it was able to complete it. Now, TPU, even though, see, like very spongy, so to speak, and that's where it holds up like a ball, so it's good for things like this. And I wish I had the A1 like Kevin does, because you can print out the full size NBA airless basketball on the size of your plate. It's that dramatic of a difference between the A1 and the A1 mini. But I digress, right? The TPU material, even though like very malleable like that, like very like elastic, one thing that it does is that it attracts humidity. It attracts humidity like a desiccant, which is a word that I learned recently, right? And I have some desiccant right here to demonstrate. Desiccant is something that's used, is those packets of silica gel that you get in like all your electronics to remove humidity, and it's something that is used. Kevin and Doc mentioned it to me a couple weeks ago, and I got a big container of it, and now it has allowed me to take the next step with filaments like the TPU that actually like start attracting moisture, like if it was a desiccant itself. It starts pulling the moisture out of the air, and once you try to print with it and it's like saturated in moisture, is going to cause you a problem, because the temperature that it requires to melt the filament itself also is going to boil water, and water tends to evaporate, and that will then cause the print or the filament that you're trying to print to pop. And it sounds like popcorn while it's printing, is like pop, or like snap. What is it? Rice Krispies. Sounds like Rice Krispies almost as it's printing, and it's giving these little air pockets within the print itself. And once it cools off, it pops, and then it ruins the finish of the print. The first thing that I did to actually mitigate the popping sound is that I went onto the actual machine itself and started decreasing the temperature of the melting point, because you're able to do that within the printer, and I was able to save some of the print. So I'm going to go back to my overhead real quick to show you this print right here, which was, let me get rid of the box again. If you can see right here, let me try to, hold on. It's kind of like too bright. There we go. I think I could show some more detail there. The finish that we're getting here, as you can see, is nice. And as you can see, the edge here where it finished is gorgeous. But right off the edge right here, as you can see, it looks jagged. That jaggedness is actually before I learned that you can preset the printer, but the first layer of adhesion was going to a temperature that was too hot. So that little edge right there, if I can show it, if it will focus on it, right? And you see those little notches? Those are actual air bubbles that were popping out before I was able to control the temperature. And like I said, the first way that I was able to mitigate the humidity and the moisture that this was capturing was by decreasing the temperature of melting. But what this does is that it actually decreases the adhesion of one layer of material to the other, because if they're not melted correctly, then they're not going to adhere, and then it kind of like pulls itself apart like string cheese, which is an unsuccessful print. So to get it right, I learned that you could actually set the bed levels and the nozzle temperatures and everything in the machine before it even gets to the printer, so that it starts printing at the correct temperature and doesn't give you any of this, which is how I printed this without any issue. There's no bubbling, there's no nothing. But I still needed to learn how to control humidity into these different types of filaments, because of the fact that I live in South Florida and we have a whole lot of humidity. So that's when the desiccants that Doc and Kevin had mentioned to me before came into play. But another thing that I found on Maker World, I think I showed Kevin, which is the 3D prints that I did with these Amazon cereal boxes. So these Amazon cereal boxes is what I already had for Aiden Snacks, and you've seen me using it earlier, right? But what I saw was that they're using these to actually kind of temperature and climate control different types of filaments. So I went right away and I had a spare from the ones that I had here, and I put it to the test. And the first one that I did was obviously my most troublesome TPU, the green stuff. So a couple of other things that I ended up picking up on Amazon are these little humidity temperatures gauges, right? These little and let's see if we can see them right there. It's right there on the front. So that little gauge is measuring the amount of humidity inside of this container. So I was able to find a little roller system that lives inside of it. So that's 3D printed. I was able to 3D print bearings, like bearings for, like, you know, a skateboard, so to speak. But because they're not weight bearing bearings, even though that's a funny thing to say, but for these rollers, they were just about perfect. So I 3D printed bearings, 3D printed this chassis, and that chassis has a built-in spot for desiccant. So I'm able to fill the back compartment, load it all in there, and just throw the spool of your filament of choice, right? And this one being the TPU in green that carries a lot of moisture. And now I know that the desiccant has actually done its job, and it's removed because the air inside of this container only is admitting 13% humidity, meaning this is pretty much ready to go. You understand? Like, it's removed as much humidity as it has available within this container. And another cool thing that I was able to do to actually keep the most amount of humidity free container was an adapter, which I left over here. And this container, as you can see, might be self-explanatory. Now, this little top is the same exact size as the tops of these containers here. So I'm able to open it and then just seal this up and extrude the filament out of this tip right here, which is the same size, and then just throw it right into my printer. So I'm able to keep the filament inside of this container, and I don't even need to take it outside and put it onto the traditional spool wheel over there. I can set it to the side or just underneath it and have the machine pull it through the container, letting the desiccant control the humidity as most as possible. And the only time that it actually sees the light of day, so to speak, or the element to capture more humidity, is past the point of it being printed. So that's how I'm able to mitigate and climate control all of my different filaments without having like entire boxes and dedicated systems. I'm able to make it modular this way, and it allows me to, you know, have different spools with different filaments. And this is the one that I just picked up today, and I'm really excited to mess with. And I have some plans for it because I've already done certain things, but one of them is like a lamp. So I've created a lamp, but the lamp is already made, right? And it's like a wall sconce that I have over here on the side. And because I have all of my lights controlled with the Govee system, I have a new lamp that now is like illuminating my room a lot better and have complete control with the Govee light. But this guy right here is still in its plastic, is actually transparent PETG. So that like high, you know, like tensile strength, you know, like very good, you know, higher temperature type of material, the same one that I use for my shower head, is I actually found it in transparent, absolutely clear. Now there's also clear PLA, which I'm probably going to get my hands on, because the cool thing about this, and this is just me, like each one of these filaments rolls is roughly between $10 to $15 depending on the brand and the quality that you're getting. These also go on sale. So I got this one for $10, right, on Amazon, and I saw it in clear. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grab it, right? So any project that I have, I just put it into that category. I'm like, can I pay for this so-called project for less than $20, right? Like the price of something on Amazon itself. So if I were to look up an item, right, and that item is $40, and I'm like, hey, you know what, I think I can make it on my 3D printer for less than that, right? I will go ahead and purchase a spool of filament for that project, Once it's done, anything extra, right, is a cherry on top, is bonus. That's just extra filament that now I have for future projects, right? So this $10 spool, being my lampshade, is made out of, it's going to be made out of transparent PLA, or no, this is PET G. So transparent PET G. There is transparent PLA, but if we get it on sale, you understand, I'll pick it up because I picked up this one first. So there's so many different things. On top of that, there's multiple colors. There's color changing. There's silk, or silk filaments, which is the feel, so to speak, the way that it looks. I think the silver one that I had mentioned before has a bit of that silk element into it, especially like to the touch. So I'm having so much fun because I'm learning a whole nother skill, a whole nother craft, and not only about the 3D printing, but even more so about CAD, right? It's the catalyst that I'm using to learn a whole new program that can literally open up so many doors, because on top of it just being fun, I have the ability to just make basically anything that I want. Like, I've changed everything up. Like, one thing that I want to mention, I was cleaning my shelf up there. Excuse me. Cleaning my shelf, and grabbed my cameras down, and then saw my Sony Alpha sign that I had there. So I threw it up there. It looked good, and it inspired me to 3D print the Sony sign, and now that's just gonna live there because I absolutely love the way that it looks. Another thing that I was able to do is my Doc Pops. So now I'm gonna pan over a bit so you can see a little bit more of that. Right there on my door. So I got all my Doc Pops there on the door, and this is the whole thing. I 3D printed mock SM7Bs, right? Because could you imagine $400 times 6? Pretty price tag to have 6 SM7Bs to display the pop filters. But with 3D printing, I was able to actually 3D print these mock SM7Bs, and they're actually not mock SM7Bs. You could actually take a Sennheiser XB8500 or the Shure SM58 and throw them in there and house the actual microphones and use them as your microphone with the look of the SM7B. That is the idea behind this, and that's why Caleb Pipe made them. But I wanted them for display, so I made a lightweight SM7B to display Doc Rock's pop filters. So now, with that being said, one thing that happened to me was that I was trying to find a way to adhere them to the door, right? And I started with magnets, right? And the magnets were good, but if I tapped the microphone at all, going in and out of my place here, like, they would just like fly off the door and just started falling on the ground. So the magnets were not feasible. So I then double-sided taped them onto the door, even though that wasn't going to be the most convenient thing, for the simple fact that, like, if I wanted to take them off and use them and change the color that I have in place for the day, then they would be difficult because they were adhered to the door. But I was willing to do it for the aesthetic. What ended up happening was I was coming in with Aiden, and I knocked one with my shoulder and broke it from the base, because instead of them popping off like they used to when they were on magnets, right, they were glued down. So when I hit it with a little bit of force, I snapped the arm of the mount that I had made for them and broke it completely, having to reprint another base, so to speak, to re-adhere it. So I was still looking for a solution, and what I came up with was something else that was out of left field, which was pot lid holders. So when I'm in Maker World looking for the hooks for my pots and pans, the pot lid holders ended up coming out in the same feed or in the same search results, right? So with the power of these slicers and learning a little bit more about CAD, I recognized that I could actually modify existing items to make them exactly the way that I need them. So I then printed these pot holders, right? Let me see if we can see that there, right? And this is my first iteration of the pot holders, and I made them in the dimensions that would fit the base of those microphone mounts. So the first one that I'm gonna showing you right here, right, was not good because I printed it with support, which is why they look so wide like this, and the supports you're supposed to rip off and they're supposed to come off easily. Now I'm demonstrating this to you live. It wasn't too easy. And I was then having to like grab a blade and do all these things. So I learned my lesson. I go, guess what? I'm gonna print the next ones, right, without that little like support, because I think that they can hold up, instead of wasting my time trying to clear these out and they're being a pain. Another thing was that I was going to adhere them via double-sided tape. So where did I put this tape? Oh. Which is another thing that I learned, right? So this was the size, and then this was the size of my tape. As you can see, there's quite a bit of millimeters difference. So the first one that I had attempted, I put a strip of double-sided tape here, and I ended up having to like cut the excess, right? And once I was cutting it, it then like jams up and clogs up my scissors, right, making it difficult to cut the double-sided tape. So that was the experience. So once I realized that, I was going to reprint these because I didn't like my experience with the support and the experience with the scissors, I fixed them immediately with the power of a set of calipers. So these are tools that I already had prior to 3D printing, but if you don't have a set of calipers, highly, highly, highly recommend. So I grabbed my calipers and I measure my tape, and it gave me 20 millimeters. So once I saw that it was 20 millimeters here, I went back into the slicer program and took my size from 14 millimeters to 20 millimeters. So the next set of like attachments, or the pot lid holders that I printed, were the perfect size for my tape, thus meaning that I didn't need to cut anything in excess. I was able to just line a strip for it because I made the holder the size of my tape, thus eliminating that problem. Second, I printed them without the support, so they came out super clean. And that made it that much easier because it didn't require that to do so as well. So that was just a bit of a learning experience. And what it did was allowed me to attach them onto it, but also make them completely modular. So if I want to change them, I can take them off extremely easy. You can see I'm able to grab these, Mach M7Bs in different colors. I almost look like one of those guys on the airport, like, hey, coming in. I digress. But as you can see, that the little pot holders there, so I can mix and match, switch the angles and use them as I want, and I don't risk them breaking again because they're stuck on there through adhesion, and they're not on there magnetically. So this has been the best of both worlds, using a pot lid holders to actually fix my situation with holding Mach SM7Bs. So that is just like how I can tell you that it's just scratching the surface on all the possibilities of 3D printing, and it's just taking like different parts from different aspects of my life, and I'm able to amalgamate them together and make something completely new, something completely customized to me and to what I'm doing. And I'm absolutely hooked. Like, I don't ever see me not 3D printing. This is something that's now just part of my life. And as Mr. Camera Junkie, man, I can't tell you the amount of endless things that I have 3D printed for my photography. Like, I have an entire bag. Like, now there's a lid for every jar and a jar for every lid, so to speak. And I know I'm 5 minutes past the hour, but I'm not gonna cut you guys short. I was 10 minutes out. So this is something else that I printed, and I'm just gonna bring them over here. Oh, are you okay, Aiden? Are you okay? I'm sorry, puppy. I was grabbing these containers and one of them fell and hit him. He's fine though. Which is what I was trying to show you. So this is something else that I found, right? And I made it my own. So I found these simple little basic containers, right? And now these are screw-on containers. And you can see I got happy with the pausing and printing. So started in black, did the gray, and then finished off in black. And I also did the lids in those colors. So now this is a simple little like storage container, right? And it's used for multi-purpose. But once again, I'm thinking, how am I going to use it for myself? So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And it's a simple screw-on. Now you can use the back end here to make it easier, but it depends on what you're using it for. So my idea with this container is like, what is it that I really need containment or help with, right? Similar to my pots and pans. Let me go over here. I'm using this. Let me get rid of all this extra stuff for my spare lens caps that I'm not using. So now I had so many lens caps and different things rolling around here that I was like, you know what? Not all of them are fit exactly to the size that I need. So I then started adjusting them. As you can see, I can change and expand the parameters to my heart's desire. So I was able to do things that would normally be messy, and now I have them in these neat little compartments. Now I did the Sony colors, as you can see, and this says rings, and you'll be like, what rings are you talking about? Well, rings are my step up rings, right? Step up, step up, step up, and step down rings, right? Look at that. So what I did is that I picked the size of my biggest step up ring, right? Which is like my 77 millimeter, my 82 millimeter, and then made the diameters or the dimensions of this container fit that. Printed it out, and Bob's your uncle, right? And now I have this perfect container for all of my step-up rings because I made it specifically for me. Customization for yours truly. And then I have this, let's see. Nice and sealed and nice and labeled. So those are my step-up rings. What else do I got around here? Oh, these are my my focus rings. So you remember that I had mentioned that I got in those rubber focus rings from Newer, right? So those are being a pain on where I could locate them because they were so big. So this went from like 82 millimeters internal diameter to like 90 millimeters internal diameter, or maybe even 100. I don't remember, but that's for these focus rings, and I have room for future focus rings because those are kind of printed out of that TPU material. And FYI, I got black TPU over there in a box sitting there waiting for that project, right? Because I think I paid like, I think it was like $30 or something for all those step-up rings, if I remember, or the gear rings. And the spool was, I think, $12. So caps, right? Let's go to it. What do we got in caps? Oh, more lens caps, right? So instead of having all of these running around, and if I wanted to take them with me in my camera bag, because I would end up using it for that shoot or whatever, it's a lot easier to throw this little container into my camera bag that's labeled. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see that? That is a design. That's something else in the 3D printing world, which is you're able to get these plate designs that have this etch on them, right? And once you print on them, that etch gets embedded onto your print. So as you can see, I have this like cool camo, right? This one here has like carbon fiber. If it'll focus. If it'll focus, there we go. She's got a carbon fiber weave on the bottom of it. There we go. That's a good shot to show it. And there's a variety of different ones. This one's got like my little cube design. Focus. Focus. Just having trouble today. I don't know if that's coming through, but a variety of different things. So I'm able to create compartments for all of these. Did I open this one? I don't even remember what's in here right now. Oh yeah, more filters. So instead of having all my filters, polarized filters, and all these just rolling around, creating havoc, and if you're anything like me, and if you had these out and about, and you knock them over, and they fall, it's not a fun time. It's not a fun time. I need to squeeze this back over here. There we go with the microphone. All right. So I was able to create all of these containers, exact specifications to my liking, all through 3D printing. And this is like where I said is really helping me out with my photography, because it's just allowing me to organize to the next level. Let me put these to the back over here. Oh, and another thing is like, yeah, see? This is like my old school M42, lens. And when I took it off of the camera, I was able to 3D print this rear lens cap. See, and it's got that design on it. Well, I'm having a blast because that thing looks nice, right? But you see, if we can read on the inside, it says M42 lens cap. All that was done by the person who designed it. And I'm just able to benefit to be able to print that out. It's got nice knurling, as you can see on the side. And now I have a rear body cap or lens cap onto this vintage lens, right? So things that you can't find anymore, readily available. All my M43 stuff, man, it's all got everything taken care of. It's just, I have everything like nice and neat. And like I said, now I have a lens cap for every body and a body cap for every camera. Just all of it, right? Like all these cameras that I have here, all my old school M42s, they all have that new shiny like 3D printed caps. I just been going ham on this stuff and I absolutely can't get enough of it. All right, it says, okay, this is where I left off. I'm going back to the comments. Kevin says, it's been so much fun on the Bamboo, much easier and convenient. Oh yeah, that's the last one that I read. Says, thanks for getting me back into this world. Hey, so happy, man. It's so funny that I'm seeing that I've actually like directly inspired a lot of the people who who are within direct vicinity of me. And I can't tell you, like, that's such a cool feeling. Hey, Sly is here. Says, hey, Lewis and Aiden, all my fellow gear junkies. I hope everyone is happy and healthy in holiday season. Once again, congratulations, everybody. Congratulate Sly. Just reached the 1,000 subscriber mark, and she's actually doing a bit of a giveaway on her channel. So if you haven't done so, go ahead and check out her channel. Check out her latest video, and you might be available for a prize to win for her 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So once again, congratulations, Sly. Well deserved. Kevin says, I have to say thank you for making me want to scratch this itch again, because I really want to put this in garage and it's been sitting there for years. Plus, I never really printed with too much success. Oh, well, now the success is definitely there. And if you have any questions, like Doc has asked me some questions, and here's a tip for you as well, right? Which is alcohol, even though it cleans, it doesn't eliminate. Okay, so for example, like I had the conversation with Doc, like Purell kills 99% of the germs, but it doesn't remove them from your hands because the liquids are still there. So they might be dead, but they're still there, comparative to using soap and water and having the water rinse all of the dead microbes, germs, or whatever off of your hands physically. So that's where there's the difference when it comes to the adhesion of bed plates. We may not recognize it, but every time we touch one of these plates and we touch the surface where the print will actually go on, we're leaving oil and residue onto those print plates, right? Onto the plates. So Doc was having problems adhering over and over again. He's like, yo, I'm cleaning it with alcohol. I'm like, it cleans it, so like it sanitizes it hypothetically, but it doesn't remove the oils and everything. It kind of just smears them around. So recommend, if you can, and just FYI, try not to touch the surface where the adhesion is going to happen, where the print is going to happen. Try to hold it by the edges. So like what I do is that I only hold it by these little nubbins. I try, not that I try my best to only hold it by the nubbins and by the label. So anything within that print bed, I try not to put my fingers on it, so to get best adhesion. But if you have problems with adhesion at all, soapy water, just like they're called printing plates, treat them like actual plates, right? Treat them like you would. And I go and I grab the bunch of them and I just soap and water with them right in the sink, dry them off, and then put them in my little container and have them ready to go, and try to not touch the printing surface as much as possible. That's what has allowed me to get the best adhesion of prints, which leads to a lot of success. Now, this is another tip, which is for you and for Alicia and anyone who could be listening. One of the things that the 3D printer does, right, is that it does that same purge before every print and whenever it's going to change colors. So that purge is that whatever amount of filament is in like the chamber that's kind of already been heated, right, needs to be extracted and can't be retracted. So the system will cut, right, and wherever it's cut from that point on has to be purged. So when they remove the first initial color and the second color ink, filament comes in, right, it's going to start pushing down, right, and it needs to run that system to make sure that all of the previous color is removed and we're only printing the new color so that it can continue with the printing process. And that's what it's called, a purge. That purge system happens at the beginning of every printing that you do, right? And this is what I wanted to eliminate, because a lot of times if it will go through that entire purging process, right, and it'll print out and dump a lot of the filament, right, into waste. And that's where you have the little poop buckets. And for those of us who use the system, you'll know what I'm talking about, where it just like it defecates off to the side, right? So that wouldn't be the worst problem, but the thing is, if it starts printing and it doesn't adhere and it starts causing a problem on the print plate, you can cancel it, but to start the new print, right, you have to go through the purge process all over again. That is because in the settings, you're setting it to optimize the flow. So I recognized that. I was like, you know what, let's try to eliminate that purging, right? And I turned that feature completely off. So now the printer basically doesn't even check to see if there's filament in there and just says, let's go, which is cool, but not the best. And I found my workaround on it, right? because I still wanted to make sure that we're getting correct adhesion to the bed before the print could continue, what I found is the looping, or am I saying that correct? Yeah, I think it's called the loops. It basically creates a outline and it traces the area that you're going to be printing on. So before the print actually starts, it actually starts extruding and just making like a big circle, kind of like a chalk outline for the police, right? Of where it's gonna print. And I have it set to 2 loops depending on the size, right? And that usually does 2 things. It works and it acts as my purge filament. So if I'm changing color, right, I can see it like literally like dumping it onto the bed plate, right? And I can see when it actually transfers from the first color to the next color, allowing me to say, okay, it's good to go on that secondary color and that the print will be fine, right? The second thing that it does is that it allows me to see that it's adhering to the plate correctly. So it's doing both of those things for me. And because of that, I have set that on all of my prints, and now I have turned off completely that purging from that optimizing the flow from the beginning. So whenever I send something to print now, it just goes basically to make sure that the printer is like heated up, that the bed is heated up, and then it goes to print and it just does one simple like pass and then goes directly into that like the tracing, right? And that's where I can see. And if I see that the trace goes good, then I just let it continue. And 99% of all my prints that way have allowed me to save a lot of filament, right? And a lot of waste into the poop bucket. So now let me explain. Oh, so minimal, but this is what my waste bucket is looking like right now, right? These are the little circle loops that I'm talking about. And that's what I'm purging comparative to what I'm going to show you here. This entire box is filled with dead and old prints, and you're going to be running into a lot of like support material and things that is just going to be actual waste. So when you know that, you try to eliminate the extra waste as much as possible. And the way that I've done it with the purging has been through that. I add the loops and that becomes my purge, and I turn off the optical flow and testing it at the beginning. So that's what I've done. If you're not into switching colors right now, I would start off that way, right? And then let the AMS do the purging normally for the changing of colors. And that would be my recommendation. Trust me, like I was looking everywhere. I even went into some forums for bamboo to try to see if there was a way that I could like half the amount of purge, right? It was like cut that in half. I'm like losing grams of filament, you know, just testing it out. And if it doesn't adhere, then that filament's gone. What was the filament that was thrown onto the bed was gone, and the print was unsuccessful. And to start all over again means another set of gram or 2 grams of like filament just being tossed into the you know, like setup process, right? Before it even adheres. And if you have another adhesion problem, you're back at square one and you have all this poop waste, so to speak, and no prints. I was like, no. Now, as you can see, all I get is like these little rings, and that's after the success and just saying like I've taken everything off, and that's what I'm cleaning off of my plate. And it's just been total game changer. Says my A1 combo has been running nonstop since it showed up. Let me go check my stats. Since I got it, that printer has 522 hours of runtime. Damn. Like that little guy didn't even know he was going to be industrial when he came out of the box. Sly says, I had my radio knobs in my Tacoma made to match the climate control knobs, which is small details, but I love them. You see, yeah, the 3D guy printed them. That is so cool. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can make anything. It's amazing how the matte PLA makes the layered lines nearly invisible compared to the basic plus. I love matte PLA. Like, the way that it comes out just looks amazing. Yo, Raphael made it. How you doing, sir? Happy Saturday. Happy holidays to you as well. He says, stopped in to say hi. Gotta go early morning tomorrow. Hey, thank you as always, sir. And you know what? We're going to get to that in just a bit. Kevin says, I'm looking for a dryer heater so I can get some better TPU PET G quality. Have some filament order, but not yet showed up. I'm telling you, bro, I really think, like, you know what? This might be a solution for like that climate control, because I've seen people take the big containers and build the AMS in there so that they can control all of the temperatures and the humidity and stuff. But dude, that thing seems legit. And also I've seen some other ones as well that you might want to look into as well. I saw one for like $150 and $100 themselves, you know, respectively, for complete enclosures for the A1 Mini. Might be a little different for the A1 because of its size, but complete glass enclosures from Amazon so that you can have that temperature controlled in. Once you have that temperature control, you could even go ABS. But JP Jarrell Peak is in the house saying, what's up? How are you doing, sir? Thank you as always for hanging out. Michael says, I have to use the garage. If I do this, humidity would be bad here in Orlando as well. Absolutely. But sir, like, I love it, but this is like, I'm joking, but it's like crack, right? You wouldn't wish it on your best friend. Like, even though I'm doing it, right? It's the rabbit hole. So unless you have a particular like project or something that you want to have in mind, like, it could easily take over a lot of your extra time. You understand me? I'm glad that I'm able to incept a lot of this while I'm taking care of Aiden, and I just have like information and videos running in the background. So it's just natively like incepting, you know, like just as it goes, so to speak. And that's like the best way that I learn. And right now I'm doing that same exact method with CAD. Right. So I played a couple of videos playing in the background just so that I can get used to, more than anything, the terminology, because most people don't, or let's say don't, but they fail to realize that if you're looking to learn anything, the hardest or the biggest hurdle, I think, is language, is the terminology. And once you learn the terminology into something, the world of whatever it is that you're exploring tends to open up for you. And I referenced this to my friend. I was like, you know, you can speak to a woman about football that doesn't know anything, right? But you talk to a guy and you go hit a post pattern, right? And he knows football. Hey, it's going to be very simple that he's going to be on the page with you, and most likely whoever it is that doesn't know about football isn't going to follow along, right? Because they just don't know the terminology, even though that's a simple route, right? Like a crossing route, but it wouldn't be called that because it already has its particular, you know, like term for it, right? It already has its terminology. Kevin says, problem is I'm starting to run into filament storage. Look, you know what? That's why I said these have been a heaven sent, because they've allowed me to just organize things easily, right? And I have 12 containers, and all the containers are full, right? All the containers are full, and they have their little rollers and everything with their desiccant. And there's still storage issues for filament. As you can see, I write with them so I can see them right off the bat, but I have PLA black and white. This is really cool. This was like a $20 box, but it comes with two, right? So from the same brand, Ender Value Pack series, it comes with both the black and a white, one of each, because I was running low on both. And these are just like your basic printer inks, right? So you're never gonna not use black or white in PLA. It's just the basic. So once I saw that my spool was very low, I just ordered another one of these, and like $10 for each spool, can't beat it. But yeah, so I got all of these, and a project that I'll let you guys in on right now. I got red, I got gray and black. No, is it gray? I think it's gray. Yeah, gray, black, red, and white. And I'm gonna make a life-size Pokeball. I just want it. It's a storage container. I saw it on Maker World, and I was like, I gotta print that out. When it's a long print, but it's gonna happen. So one day you'll see it as a what do we call that? Aiden, chill. Easter egg. There's definitely gonna be something on the Easter egg side of the set where I'm gonna have a random Pokeball just make its appearance, similar to like my Sony sign over here. Hey, Ernesto Made says happy Saturday. Says controller LOL. Every jar has its lid. Am I that backed up? Look at this. What's going on? Hey, Randy also made it. Says saying hi and bye. Catch the stream on the rewind. Thank you, sir, as always. Saying que pasó to Aiden. Says, can you make them stackable? I'm guessing he's talking about the little containers. No, but I wouldn't doubt that there's stackable containers just the same. That file that I took to mess around with didn't, but you know what? If it doesn't exist, what I have the utmost confidence in is that once I say like I know the basics of CAD, I'd be able to take the original file, throw it in there, and add those little supports, both on top and bottom, to give them like the little footings to make them stackable. See? And that's what I said. Like, once I learn the CAD side, it's going to be game over. Like, game over. There's going to be nothing that I won't have that will not be basically customized to exactly the way that I want it, just because I have the power to do so. So let me get this to this kid who's... Here you go. You only have 8%, so it's about to die. FYI. All right. He's saying cool. Right there. Says those would be cool, almost old school film canisters. Yeah, right? But you see, like, you just saying that, like the way... Just to give you a insight, right? Like, just you mentioning this comment right here throws my mind into, I'm like, oh, that's right. I can probably take a mock-up of an old film canister and just kind of like wrap it over that file, right? And then merge them together in CAD, and then have a canister that has that same little wind-up thing, but looks like an old school film container with maybe a little film strip and everything. And boom, it's done, right? So many different things, even to the point where I was like, yeah, you know what, I can do it and make the film strip that comes out of it a separate print, so that you can print it easily with a different color filament, so that you can make the entire canister like yellow or even like silver to make it look like metal, right? Then you could just take the print a black film piece, add it to it, and now you have your container that, you know, kind of like my Pokeball, gives you the aesthetic. He goes, yes, and I wait till the print colors because the print comes off so much easier. Absolutely. Yep. He goes, so much poop in 4-color prints. I need to go work on my purge process. Now, there's a whole nother feature. I haven't gotten into it because I don't have the AMS. But once you have it connected, and then you have that feature turned on in the Bamboo Slicer program, you'll actually be able to like set the amounts of purge to a lot less. But just be warned, certain colors tend to need more time to purge than others. Like black needs a lot longer purge time to change because it's such like a dominant color that it will tend to like linger, so to speak. So black needs to purge out a lot longer than something like white would, because it can kind of be dominated by anything. It turns to gray a lot faster and then goes to black or to whichever color you're switching to a lot easier. Goes, wow, that's a lot of time. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but 522 hours. Like, I remember when I was like, yo, I got 300 hours of print time, and that means like that machine is going printing something actively, man. Like, I put some work into it. You know, thinking about working on developing some dividers for my roller harbor freight case. You know what? I'm going to send you a link to something that Doc sent me. And you know what? It's funny because I'm going to bring it up, right? I'll probably see if I put it into the chat for you, sir. Because it's actually this week's Cities Goal, which I'm trying to get to. I'm just trying to get through all these comments. Just thinking of old video. Oh, like the flat canisters. That, yeah, like film for movies. You know what? That's actually cooler. Like, oh, that's actually cooler. Yeah, I'll put a bunch of like odds and ends stuff in there. Hey, Robert's in the house as well. Says loving the holiday look. Thank you. It's a fireplace in the video adds depth. Thank you. You see the flickering off of the wall? Next level thinking. All right, so now what I was gonna do is gonna do this thing, which we do every week. Cities Goal, there we go. Cities Goal, channels that I think you should go and watch. Right there, the W, bam. And this week's Cities Goal, if I could pull it up, is someone that is new to me. So I wish I could tell you that I knew more of this individual, but it is a channel that I had already found, and Doc shared this information with me just the same. And he is the 3D printing nerd, right? Let's go here, right? So as you can see, 669,000 subscribers, got 1,300 videos, and he's not only 3D printing on this level, but he gets into the nitty gritty of what's coming in the future. So he's like the camera junkie of 3D printing, right? So as you can see, this video here that says the 10 minutes per part, that is getting into metal 3D printing with lasers and what is coming out in the future of this new like next level. Like in that video, I saw it myself. They have 3D printed parts for a rocket booster engine, and they have a full rocket booster engine like on display of parts that they have 3D printed for it, because now they're able to make iterations a lot faster. You know, it's incredible what this is now allowing. In the same way that I can make iterations to hooks for my pots and pans, they're able to take that same type of, you know, like technology and apply it to rocketeering, right, to rocket engine making. So it's amazing. But this is this week's Cities Goal, which is the 3D printing nerd. As you can see, everything and anything that has to do with printing, whether it's, you know, filament printing, resin printing, and everything in between, this is the nerd. So this is this week's Cities Goal. If you haven't checked them out, you see it's broke. You see that? You see that it says it's broke? That's funny, because that's exactly what I was saying, that when it doesn't adhere correctly, you get that separation, and I've dealt with that myself. So a lot of good information from the channel, but also a lot of good information from a lot of different channels. Look at these shoes. I haven't even checked out his entire thing, but like 3D printed shoes, 3D printed sandals, car parts, CAD, all this stuff, it all falls under the same umbrella. And I'm happy that I'm also able to use it for photography stuff as well. So this week's Cities Goal, channels that I think you should go and watch: the 3D printing nerd, Padow with the frat owl. So that's this week's Cities Goal. And you know what? I'm gonna leave it with this. Go back to the overhead. right? Bam. Come over here. And to show you, you can just pull it out of some stuff. One of the things that I love and I've been messing around with is actually thumb rests, right? For my cameras. So I've been printing some out. I've been making some prototypes on these thumb rests. As you can see, it's got that little like shine to it, the sheen, right? And I have different models doing different things. So you're saying, what is that? Well, if you were to take a camera body, I like holding these rangefinder style cameras, but I also like having a place for my thumb. So I'm mocking out, testing out different thumb rests here, so to speak, which allow me to do exactly that, right? And hold that. So I know I purchase these all the time from Amazon. Ooh, this one stuck in there a bit too tight. Good thing it's plastic, right? Okay, a different style, a different look, different feel, right? So to see which is the one that I'm gonna find to fit the best. That doesn't even fit well there. But on different cameras, different styles, right? Different trials. And all of these I found on the Maker World, right? It's a little thumb rest for camera bodies, right? To give you a little bit better grip on it. And I'm having absolutely like too much fun with all the things that are available. Like here, I'll just... Come on. Oh, that's it. The final thing to show you guys is that I even 3D printed base plates. See, so I made this 50mm base plate for my camera. I put a little bit of foam on there, and even something that simple, right? That I'm able to just attach to the bottom and have it modular. So instead of, you know, detaching my one and only base plate that I had for this tripod, I'm able to now replicate. And you see, like, it had this little notch that I needed to physically cut out because I took somebody else's design and just 3D printed it. But now with CAD, I'll be able to notch that out and make the same exact plate exactly what I want. So I have a traditional Arca Swiss, which I labeled it in the 40mm, and also the 50mm for my bigger Arca off of my small rig. So many different things when it comes to photography and printing. I can't even emphasize like all the files that are available for lens caps. So if you've ever lost a lens cap or a lens hood on a camera or lens, 3D printing is going to be your friend. And that is something that I'm just extremely happy. It's like a place for everything and everything in its place. And I'm absolutely loving the possibilities of organization and customization that I get with 3D printing, not only in photography and cinematography, but in every aspect, from my shower pots and pans to displays of microphone stands. Anything that you want, 3D printing's got your back. That rhymed, and I didn't mean it's recorded, you understand? And we have it here to live in infamy forever. But guys, we did it. We went well over. I took some extra time to get on, but definitely took some extra time on the back end, and this was another success. So we did it, everyone. Episode 211. So if you're saying 211, what's that? And that means that we've done this same exact thing every Saturday for 211 consecutive weeks without skipping a beat. So if you're wondering what's going to happen next Saturday, the same exact thing. We're going to be doing this all over again, same time, same place, right here on the Camera Junkie YouTube channel. So if you haven't, subscribe, give the likes, do all the YouTubery things, right? Leave a comment if you're watching this on a replay, and make sure that you're informed and notified for next week's live stream when we go episode 212, right? And we see what we get into right before the holiday, right? Because, man, I don't even know like the dates. You understand? Because even if it's Christmas, Christmas Eve, I'm Puerto Rican. We celebrate Christmas Eve. Regardless, I will be going live, and it doesn't skip a beat. So, like I said, make sure that you're all clicked up and make sure that you're informed so you don't miss episode 212 as we keep this thing rolling. So, everyone, as always, thank you for taking the time and hanging out here with me, making this my favorite place to be every single week, the Camera Junkie live stream. So, everyone, take care of yourselves and each other. Enjoy the holiday shopping. Enjoy your family. And I will see all of your beautiful smiling faces when we do it all over again next week. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you next time. Talk to you.